So now that we know how to get into a spreadsheet program, I'm going to walk through some of the sort of the basic concepts of spreadsheet applications. So first, I'm going to, in Excel on 365, so this is the web-based Excel as opposed to the application that you might find on your university desktop. This is going to create a blank workbook. So in Excel, the terminology is you have a workbook, and inside each workbook, you may have more than one sheet. So you can tell how many sheets are in a workbook by looking down here at the bottom. This says sheet 1. I can add a sheet, and now I have 2 sheets, and I can actually right-click on those and rename those sheets as well. So this can be test 1. And if I right-click on sheet 2 and say rename, I can call this test 2, and so on and so forth. So I don't know what the limit is, but you can definitely have quite a few tabs here. And these are called worksheets. So a workbook is everything that is stored in. Worksheet is each of these tabs in the bottom of the screen. So in Excel, everything is based off a grid of rows and columns. So everything here is a row, so they're labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here. And each column is a letter. So A, B, C, D, and E. These are called columns. So any spot in this worksheet, I could look at it and say, oh, this is at A1, or this is at F5. So it's just a way to be able to refer to parts of the spreadsheet specifically, so you can actually have coordinates, much like you would do in a map, for example. There's a lot of features in Excel that are available to text editor kind of features, bold, italics, copy, paste, all of that stuff is part of Excel. But there's also formatting for the columns and rows themselves, and these are a little bit more advanced. Feel free to play with them, but they're not really a requirement to understand in this course. But you may find this format as table particularly interesting, just if you're writing up your challenge problems, or if you're just doing work and you want something to be displayed clearly. You have all these options of how to display your data, different colors, banded rows, so alternating colors for each row. Just makes it a little bit easier to read, and it's just kind of a nice little feature. There's also a place here for inserting things, and we'll get to this, but this is kind of where you want to go to get to different types of charts that you're gonna, or graphs, that visualizations as they call it, that we're going to be looking into throughout the remainder of the course. There's a formulas tab. We'll get into that as well. I'm not going to get too far into this. Typically you wouldn't get into the formulas tab per se, but you would definitely be using this in a different way, and I'll show you that in another video. Data, you can actually connect Excel to data sources outside of Excel, so I can connect it to all kinds of data sources, including websites. So there's a lot you can do here. Now, the 365 version of Excel, I think, has limited connectivity for the data piece of it, so just to keep that in mind. Here, so if you want someone to take a look at your workbook and make comments, but you don't want, you want to be able to go back to the original and understand exactly what they did or what they changed. This is what the review tab is for. View is just view different ways to view things. Really, the most valuable thing here in view is this freeze panes, and what this does is it actually, if I say freeze top row, if I have stuff in these columns, and then let's say I have more stuff down here and some other stuff here, and I'll scroll down a little bit just to kind of show you. You can see that as I scroll, that top bar doesn't move at all. And you can see it by the numbers here that row 1 never moves. So that's a very valuable thing to have. And I think that's pretty much everything as far as what the controls are. The one other thing that I just want to point out is that we call these rows and we call these columns, and the terminology is pretty important because we all want to be talking apples to apples. So if I say a row, I'm talking about a row here, and if I'm saying a column, I'm talking about vertical representation of the data. Typically, when it comes to statistics and in data in general, a row will indicate an individual, and a column will indicate a variable or an attribute of that individual. So that's a brief overview of what Excel has to offer, and we'll get more into the nitty-gritty as the course moves forward.